Marriage is a sacred journey, a reflection of a higher divine order in human life. Many enter into it with expectations rooted in the human mind, hopes of companionship, comfort, and shared experiences, yet the true essence of a biblical marriage transcends all of these worldly aspirations. At its heart, marriage is a spiritual union, a meeting of two souls that mirrors the divine harmony of creation itself. When we understand marriage in this light, we begin to see that it is not merely an arrangement between two people, but a profound channel through which God expresses love, patience, and understanding. The first secret every Christian should embrace is that love in marriage flows from the Spirit, not from the ego. When we look for love to come from our partner's actions, we place our happiness in a precarious position. Divine love, however, is ever present and infinite. It is this consciousness of love that allows us to give and receive freely, without conditions, without expectation. When couples align with this spiritual truth, every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, becomes a reflection of the divine presence between them. Marriage, at its deepest and most enduring level, is a spiritual union rather than merely a social or legal arrangement. Too often, couples enter marriage with expectations based solely on human understanding, companionship, emotional comfort, shared responsibilities, and personal happiness. While these aspects are natural, they are surface-level reflections of a far deeper reality. The foundation of biblical marriage lies in the recognition that it is first and foremost a meeting of two souls, a sacred partnership designed to mirror divine harmony. When we view marriage through this lens, we begin to understand that it is not two separate individuals trying to coexist, but two expressions of spirit coming together to reflect love, unity, and the divine order of creation. A spiritual marriage begins with awareness that the relationship is a conduit for divine expression. Love is not something earned or given conditionally, it is an eternal presence that flows through each partner. When couples center their union in this consciousness, they are no longer dependent on each other's behavior for fulfillment or happiness. Every interaction, every gesture, and every word becomes an opportunity to demonstrate this higher love. The spiritual dimension teaches that true harmony in marriage does not come from changing the other person or forcing circumstances to align with expectations. Instead, it arises naturally when both individuals align with the inner truth of who they are, eternal beings capable of love that transcends human limitations. This understanding also shifts the way challenges are perceived. Conflicts, misunderstandings, and moments of tension are no longer threats to the marriage, but invitations to deepen awareness and cultivate spiritual virtues such as patience, empathy, and unconditional love when difficulties arise. Couples attuned to the spiritual nature of marriage recognize that these moments are opportunities for growth, both individually and collectively. The ego, with its attachments and judgments, is inevitably tested, and the spiritual perspective provides a path to navigate these tests with grace rather than resentment or fear. In addition, a spiritual marriage acknowledges that both partners are on a continuous journey of growth. Each person brings unique lessons and experiences into the union, and these differences are not obstacles but complementary forces that enrich the relationship. By approaching marriage as a shared journey of spiritual awakening, couples cultivate a deeper connection that extends beyond physical attraction or emotional comfort. Their love becomes a reflection of divine love, sustaining them through challenges and inspiring a sense of peace and fulfillment that is rooted in the eternal rather than the transient. In essence, viewing marriage as a spiritual union transforms the relationship from a human-centered contract into a sacred partnership. It encourages couples to see each other not as separate entities to be controlled or shaped, but as expressions of the same divine presence. By prioritizing spiritual awareness and aligning with the higher truth of love, couples create a foundation that allows their marriage to thrive in a state of harmony, joy, and divine reflection. The spiritual union becomes the guiding force, ensuring that every action, thought, and intention within the marriage resonates with love, unity, and the eternal presence of God. True love in marriage flows from divine consciousness rather than human effort alone. Many couples assume that love is something they must create, maintain, or constantly manage through effort, compromise, and sacrifice. While human care and attention play a role, the deeper, sustaining force of marital love comes from a spiritual source that transcends personal desire, ego, or circumstance. When love is rooted in divine consciousness, it is no longer conditional upon how a partner behaves, how situations unfold, or how closely reality aligns with expectations. It becomes a constant, unshakable presence that informs every interaction, every word, and every choice within the marriage. Divine love in marriage is not sentimental or limited. It is a living, active force that moves through both partners, harmonizing their hearts and minds. When couples access this love, they find themselves responding with patience, kindness, and understanding, even in situations that previously would have triggered frustration or resentment. This consciousness of love fosters an environment in which both partners feel secure, valued, and seen, not because of what they do or how they perform, but simply because they are expressions of the same eternal spirit. In this way, love is no longer a fragile human emotion, but a reflection of a higher reality that supports, sustains, and uplifts the marriage. Love rooted in divine consciousness also transforms the way couples approach conflict. When difficulties arise, the first instinct of the ego is often defensiveness, blame, or withdrawal. In contrast, when love flows from spirit, challenges are met with openness, humility, and a willingness to understand rather than dominate. The couple begins to see that disagreements are opportunities to practice the virtues of compassion and forgiveness, strengthening the bond rather than weakening it. This perspective allows love to persist even in the face of adversity because it is grounded not in external circumstances but in the inner reality of divine presence. Furthermore, this kind of love dissolves the illusion of separateness between partners. When two people recognize the divine essence within themselves and each other, they experience a unity that surpasses physical attraction or emotional attachment. Every act of service, every word of encouragement, and every gesture of care becomes an expression of this eternal love. The relationship is no longer a contract or an exchange. It becomes a living reflection of the harmony and wholeness inherent in the divine. A marriage that flows from divine consciousness also nurtures personal growth. When love is abundant and unconditional, each partner feels safe to explore their own spiritual path, to develop character, and to expand awareness. There is no fear of judgment or rejection because the relationship is anchored in a love that transcends human limitations. Over time, this creates a bond that is resilient, enduring, and deeply fulfilling, allowing the marriage to thrive in joy, peace, and spiritual alignment. In essence, true love in marriage is a conscious connection with the divine that moves through both partners. It is not dependent on external factors, human effort, or fleeting emotions. Instead, it is an ever-present, sustaining force that transforms the relationship, elevates the souls of both partners, and mirrors the infinite love of God. Forgiveness and patience form the bedrock of any enduring marriage, and in a biblical sense, they are not merely virtues to aspire to but essential expressions of spiritual truth. In human relationships, misunderstandings, disappointments, and errors are inevitable. Even with the strongest intentions, couples will at times hurt or frustrate each other. Without forgiveness, these moments accumulate, creating walls of resentment and distance that erode love. Forgiveness in marriage is not about condoning behavior or ignoring wrongdoing. It is the conscious release of judgment and the recognition that each partner is a spiritual being on a journey of growth. When couples embrace this understanding, they move beyond the limitations of ego, seeing mistakes as temporary expressions of human imperfection rather than reflections of the soul. Patience is the natural complement to forgiveness, providing the time and space necessary for growth, understanding, and the unfolding of love. Marriage requires constant adjustment, as two unique individuals navigate life together. Rushing, demanding, or insisting on immediate change creates tension and conflict, whereas patience allows each partner to evolve at their own pace. Spiritual patience is not passive waiting, it is an active cultivation of inner calm, empathy, and awareness. It involves the willingness to bear with imperfection, the openness to listen deeply, and the capacity to respond with grace rather than frustration. This patience nurtures an atmosphere in which forgiveness becomes natural and love can flourish unimpeded. When forgiveness and patience are practiced consciously, they create a cycle of healing and unity within the marriage. Forgiveness releases past hurts, freeing the heart to love without reservation, while patience supports ongoing growth and adaptation. Together, they form a protective shield against the inevitable challenges and misunderstandings that arise in close relationships. A marriage grounded in these spiritual principles does not collapse under the weight of conflict, but transforms each difficulty into an opportunity for deeper connection and understanding. These virtues also elevate the perspective from which couples see each other. Instead of focusing on faults or unmet expectations, they begin to recognize the divine essence within their partner. Every shortcoming is viewed as a temporary expression of human limitation rather than a permanent flaw. Forgiveness allows the partner to be fully accepted in the present moment, while patience provides the space for continued development. In this way, the marriage becomes a living reflection of divine love, where both partners are seen, honored, and cherished as expressions of spirit. Moreover, the practice of forgiveness and patience extends beyond interpersonal harmony. It fosters inner peace and spiritual growth. When a person learns to forgive and exercise patience, they release attachments, judgments, and the need for control, allowing a greater awareness of God's presence to guide the relationship. This awareness transforms the marriage from a struggle of personalities into a shared journey of spiritual awakening, where love is not contingent on behavior but flows freely from the divine source within each partner. In essence, forgiveness and patience are not optional qualities but spiritual lifelines that sustain marriage. They allow couples to move beyond ego, embrace each other fully, and cultivate a love that is enduring, resilient, and reflective of divine truth. Through their consistent practice, marriage becomes a sacred vessel for growth, harmony, and the expression of eternal love. Mutual spiritual growth is a powerful and often overlooked dimension of a biblical marriage. Many couples focus primarily on companionship, shared activities, or emotional intimacy, yet the deepest connection arises when both partners commit to evolving spiritually together. Spiritual growth in marriage is not about imposing beliefs or practices on each other, but about nurturing the inner life of the soul and supporting one another in the journey toward greater awareness, love, and understanding. When both partners are aligned in this shared pursuit, the marriage becomes a dynamic environment in which love is constantly deepened, challenges are transformed into lessons, and the relationship reflects divine harmony. In a spiritually grounded marriage, each partner recognizes that the other is a soul on a unique journey. Differences in personality, perspective, and experience are not obstacles but opportunities for expansion. When one partner grows in compassion, patience, or understanding, the other is naturally inspired to do the same, creating a continuous flow of spiritual enrichment. This shared evolution strengthens the bond between partners, ensuring that their connection is not solely based on temporary emotions or circumstances, but on the enduring principles of love, awareness, and unity. The marriage becomes a vessel through which both individuals express the divine presence, cultivating a sense of purpose and fulfillment that transcends the material or mundane. Mutual spiritual growth also transforms the way couples face challenges. When conflicts arise, they are no longer seen merely as disagreements to be resolved or problems to be endured. Instead, they become opportunities for insight, learning, and the cultivation of higher virtues. Each disagreement, miscommunication, or moment of tension invites the couple to practice empathy, patience, forgiveness, and unconditional love. By approaching difficulties as spiritual exercises rather than threats, couples move closer together while simultaneously deepening their individual spiritual awareness. This perspective turns potential points of friction into catalysts for transformation and a deeper, more resilient love. Prayer, meditation, and shared reflection are often central practices that support mutual spiritual growth. When couples engage in these activities together, they establish a rhythm of unity and alignment with divine consciousness. These practices are not rituals to be performed mechanically, but ways to attune to the higher presence that guides and sustains the marriage. As both partners strengthen their inner connection, the external relationship naturally reflects this growth, creating a partnership that is harmonious, compassionate, and infused with a sense of sacred purpose. A marriage rooted in shared spiritual growth also fosters freedom and individuality. Each partner is encouraged to explore their own inner path, develop their unique gifts, and cultivate awareness without fear of judgment or rejection. This freedom paradoxically deepens intimacy because both partners recognize and honor the sacredness of the other's journey. The relationship thus becomes a mirror of divine love, where each individual's awakening enhances the unity and depth of the marriage. In essence, mutual spiritual growth transforms marriage from a human contract into a living, evolving partnership of souls. By nurturing the inner life, supporting each other's development, and aligning with divine consciousness, couples create a bond that is resilient, harmonious, and reflective of eternal love. This shared journey ensures that the marriage is not only fulfilling in the present, but also a pathway to higher understanding, unity, and spiritual awakening. The power of prayer, meditation, and shared faith in marriage is profound, offering a spiritual foundation that strengthens the bond between partners far beyond the limitations of human effort or understanding. Many couples rely solely on emotional connection or mutual interests to sustain their relationship. Yet these alone cannot carry a marriage through life's inevitable challenges. When prayer and meditation are integrated into the partnership, they invite a higher consciousness into the relationship, creating a space where love, understanding, and harmony naturally flourish. Shared spiritual practices unite the couple not only in purpose but in presence, connecting them to a source of guidance, peace, and divine insight that transcends individual limitations. Prayer in marriage is not merely a request for external outcomes but an alignment of consciousness with the divine. When partners pray together, they open their hearts to the wisdom and love of God, inviting insight into their relationship and their own growth as individuals. This practice fosters humility, compassion, and clarity, allowing each person to respond to the other from a place of understanding rather than ego-driven reaction. It transforms the marriage into a sacred dialogue, not just between two people, but between the couple and the higher presence that guides them. This connection imbues ordinary moments with meaning and allows the couple to navigate challenges with grace and discernment. Meditation enhances this connection by cultivating awareness and presence within the relationship. When both partners practice stillness and reflection together, they create a shared inner space of calm and receptivity. This quiet alignment allows them to recognize and release negative patterns, resentments, or fears that may otherwise disrupt harmony. Meditation also strengthens the intuitive connection between partners, deepening empathy and sensitivity to each other's needs and emotions. In this state of shared consciousness, the relationship becomes less about individual desires and more about a collective expression of love, understanding, and spiritual unity. Shared faith further reinforces this spiritual bond, providing a common framework for values, purpose, and understanding. When couples are aligned in their belief in a higher power and the principles that guide their lives, they find guidance and strength in moments of uncertainty. Faith nurtures trust, not only in God but in each other, as it reminds both partners that their union is supported by a greater presence and order. This shared foundation encourages them to act with integrity, patience and love even when circumstances are challenging or confusing. Moreover, the integration of prayer, meditation, and faith transforms challenges into opportunities for growth and awakening. Difficulties in marriage are no longer seen as obstacles to overcome, but as invitations to deepen the spiritual connection and strengthen the bond. Couples learn to move beyond surface-level disagreements, recognizing that their shared commitment to the divine guides their responses, decisions, and interactions. Through this conscious engagement, the marriage becomes a living testament to the power of spirit working in everyday life, a sanctuary of love, peace, and mutual upliftment. In essence, prayer, meditation, and shared faith are not optional practices, but the lifeblood of a spiritually aligned marriage. They bring divine presence into the union, cultivate inner harmony, and create a resilient, enduring love that thrives in the light of higher consciousness. By embracing these practices together, couples transform their marriage into a sacred partnership, reflecting the eternal presence of love and divine wisdom in every aspect of their shared life. Challenges in marriage are often seen as problems to solve, burdens to endure, or signs of incompatibility, yet from a spiritual perspective, they are profound opportunities for awakening and alignment with higher truth. Every difficulty, every disagreement, and every moment of tension carries within it a hidden lesson that, when embraced, strengthens the bond between partners and nurtures their individual growth. In a biblical or spiritually centered marriage, challenges are not threats to love but invitations to practice patience, forgiveness, humility, and understanding. They reveal the areas where ego, fear, or attachment seeks to dominate and encourage couples to turn inward toward the presence of God and the guiding wisdom of spirit. Marriage, when approached as a spiritual journey, teaches that challenges are essential for transformation. Human beings are naturally conditioned to resist discomfort, yet in resisting, they often perpetuate conflict and suffering. Challenges in marriage expose these resistances and invite couples to examine their expectations, judgments, and fears. When partners recognize that difficulties are opportunities rather than obstacles, they begin to respond with awareness instead of reaction. Each conflict becomes a mirror reflecting their own inner patterns and the areas where spiritual growth is needed. By facing these moments consciously, couples learn to rise above habitual responses and cultivate qualities that sustain lasting love and harmony. These challenges also foster deep empathy and compassion. When one partner struggles, the other has the chance to respond with understanding rather than criticism. When both partners encounter shared obstacles, they learn to cooperate, compromise, and support one another in ways that strengthen the emotional and spiritual fabric of the relationship. In this way, difficulties become sacred teachers, revealing the power of love that is rooted not in convenience or preference, but in the conscious choice to honor and uplift the other. Couples learn that true love is tested in times of trial and strengthened by the commitment to act from higher consciousness rather than impulse or ego. Moreover, challenges are catalysts for deepening the connection to divine guidance. When life presents trials, couples who turn to prayer, meditation, or reflection together discover solutions that transcend human logic. They cultivate a shared awareness that God is present in every circumstance and that every difficulty carries a hidden blessing. This perspective transforms fear, frustration, and disappointment into trust, insight, and resilience. Couples become co-creators in a relationship guided by spirit, moving through obstacles with grace and discovering new dimensions of love and understanding that would remain hidden in easier times. Ultimately, challenges are not detours from love, but integral elements of the journey towards spiritual maturity within marriage. They invite couples to release attachment to control, to embrace humility, and to act from the awareness of divine presence in both themselves and their partner. Each trial becomes a doorway to deeper intimacy, growth, and shared awakening. Through this understanding, Marriage is transformed from a series of human interactions into a sacred partnership in which challenges are the instruments that refine love, strengthen unity, and align the couple more fully with the eternal truth of God's presence in their lives. Marriage, when truly understood, is far more than a social arrangement or a bond of convenience. It is a sacred journey, a meeting of souls designed to reflect the eternal harmony of divine love. Throughout this exploration of biblical marriage, we have uncovered the secrets that sustain a union not merely in comfort or circumstance, but in spirit. At its core, marriage is a spiritual union, a joining that transcends the human mind and the fluctuations of emotion. When couples recognize that their partnership is first a reflection of divine consciousness, every interaction, every choice, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to express higher love, patience, and understanding. Love in marriage flows most profoundly when it is drawn from spirit rather than human effort alone. Human love, though sincere, is limited by expectations, ego, and circumstance, but love rooted in divine consciousness is constant, unconditional, and expansive. It does not depend on what the partner does or how the situation unfolds. It is a living presence that guides both individuals toward harmony, empathy, and joy. Through this love, the couple learns to meet each other with generosity and compassion, creating a union that uplifts rather than confines, that nurtures rather than diminishes, and that reflects the infinite love of God in every moment. Forgiveness and patience form the essential pillars of this union. Without forgiveness, resentment accumulates and divides hearts. Without patience, growth is stifled and understanding falters. These virtues allow couples to move beyond the limitations of the ego and to embrace one another as evolving spiritual beings. They create a sanctuary within marriage, where both partners feel secure, cherished, and free to express their highest selves. Each act of forgiveness and each exercise of patience strengthens the bond, transforming challenges into lessons and misunderstandings into opportunities for deeper love. Mutual spiritual growth elevates the marriage from a relationship of convenience to a partnership of awakening. When both partners pursue inner development, the marriage becomes a living reflection of divine truth, a shared journey of learning, compassion, and enlightenment. Differences that might otherwise cause friction are transformed into complementary forces that expand awareness and deepen connection. Through shared growth, the couple learns that love is not static but dynamic, constantly evolving as both individuals evolve, and that the marriage itself becomes a channel for the expression of higher consciousness. Prayer, meditation, and shared faith infuse the marriage with divine presence. These practices align the couple with wisdom, guidance, and inner peace. Transforming ordinary moments into sacred experiences, they allow the partners to navigate life's uncertainties with grace, trust, and understanding, while also reinforcing the spiritual foundation upon which the relationship rests. When challenges arise, they are met with clarity and love rather than fear or reaction, further solidifying the marriage as a reflection of divine unity. Finally, the trials and challenges of marriage are not obstacles but invitations to awaken. Conflicts, disappointments, and difficulties illuminate areas for growth, teaching humility, empathy, and unwavering love. When couples approach challenges as opportunities for spiritual refinement, the marriage becomes a sacred vessel of growth, resilience, and mutual awakening. Each obstacle, when met with consciousness and grace, strengthens the partnership and deepens the reflection of divine love. In conclusion, a biblical marriage is a union that thrives on spiritual awareness, unconditional love, forgiveness, patience, shared growth, and faith. It is a living reflection of God's presence, a sacred partnership in which challenges refine love, and where the essence of each partner is honored and elevated. When couples embrace these truths, marriage transcends the human experience, becoming not just a relationship but a journey of spiritual awakening, unity, and divine expression, a harmonious testament to the eternal power of love.